Patch preview for 25.11. Last patch Riot did major items, and besides that, nothing. People are complaining that League is getting very stale. Are Riot gonna cook up a big patch here, or do we have to wait further for MSI? Let's find out. The game is feeling decently balanced for most levels right now. A lot of the things that remain are larger structural issues with certain systems that aren't resolvable in a small balance change. Once again, I always say this, but they always are positive. They never say anything negative. They always use the same sentences. This for me doesn't mean anything. Major items overall have landed in a decent spot, but Horizon focus is clearly too weak. There's been a bunch of shakeups in the dot paths, Liandry build paths, and burst paths. Luden's builds are certainly more viable. Definitely agree. Nothing here is being wrong. I do wonder if Riot would, like, in the future maybe consider nerfing Protobelt and stuff. Some items do feel a bit too strong, maybe, like Storm Surge after the buffs. Horizon Focus is absolutely horrible. It's the worst mage item in the game besides Roa, and I'm kind of surprised Roa is not being mentioned here. Roa should be buffed. Catalyst should be nerfed. Roa should be buffed. But I think they're not doing that, so we see, like, later we're gonna, I think, see a Rise buff in the patch notes. Cho'Gath buffed, overswung a tad, but his Q is about right. Looking to keep the Q, but take his power down a little. So Riot is not, for some reason Riot does not want Cho'Gath to be about Q, which is arguably more skilled ability than E. Riot wants Cho'Gath to be more of a stay tank and E people down. Now, I guess that's fine, I'm not gonna over complain about this. Yeah, so Cho'Gath is just gonna be E skewed pretty much from now on till Riot decides otherwise. Smolder buff also overswung a tad. We're pulling that one back a bit. Yeah, Smolder gained like 2% win rate on ADC. He's doing really well now. Makes sense. Steady state balance. We feel our balance is in a pretty good state right now and don't really want to net nerf or buff champions unnecessarily. As a result, we're doing some power neutral changes to relatively champions like KASSADIN, Samira for their mastery curves to make them feel more powerful without giving them more power. Wait, how does that make sense? Make them feel more powerful without giving them more power. That's gonna be kind of hard to achieve. So obviously I'm gonna wait to see what they do with this type of champs, because buffing Samira and KASSADIN is very, very hard for Riot to do. These champions have insanely high ban rates, people are insanely tilted by them. However, I have a feeling that the buffs they're gonna give to these champs are most likely gonna be complete placebo. So I have zero hopes for both Samira and KASSADIN. I think they're gonna give them nothing. Aatrox. Making Aatrox feel better about traditional fighter items by making his W physical damage. Also making Aatrox a bit more rewarded for hitting sweet spots relatively. So, here's my problem. Riot changed Aatrox W from physical to magic, and the reason back then was that if you change the ability to magic, you make lethality builds weaker. But at the same time, you do make one ability worse by making cleaver interaction worse. Now, they're just doing the same exact thing they did before, just reverting it. But they're saying that they want to make traditional fighter items better, but doesn't making W physical damage just make lethality better? So I'm kind of confused because they're just going in a circle here with no real explanation. What is the consensus here? I don't understand this at all. Garen. Adjusting Garen's builds to feel better about non-crit builds and feel better about fighter items. Part of this is also to make it so that Garen has more repeatability in his pattern through lower E cooldown and by extension, enable non-burst patterns more. Trying to avoid cooldown going too low so there are still windows to play against him. I mean, I 100% like what they're doing with Garen. I already praised it. I think this is one of the best Freak things he has done in a while, because Freak oftentimes just makes things way too OP or makes things very weird, but this one, I have a feeling it's gonna be good. Anyway, so here's the explanations. Now we see actually the whole patch. So first of all, there are decent amount of buffs here, way less nerfs, and some champion adjustments. Now adjustments are usually just nerfs or buffs, so it's very hard to say which side they're going for here. So Diana in jungle is getting a buff. So this one makes complete sense. So Diana got her passive nerfed in jungle a while ago and got some base stats on W buffed or something like that. It resulted in Diana mid lane being really good for low elo players, but Diana jungle becoming not so good anymore. So they're giving some power here to Diana jungle. I think the buff is not going to be insane, but they're probably going to buff the passive. Rengar, Knife Cat. So they're buffing Rengar in Master Elo. for like Rengar's only good in like Diamond and Master Elo anyway. Again, this is a champion that is really hard to buff. I never like when this champion gets buffed because I just think playing against Rengar is not a fun experience, especially as a high elo player. Rengar is not really an issue for 99% of player base, so it's really hard again here. But I do think that definitely I think that Rengar is a bit weaker right now than he used to be years ago, but I also thought years ago he was very overpowered and Riot kept him in that state for a very long amount of time. So for me, it's really hard. Like, personally, I would rather not see this champion, but I understand why they're buffing him. Then we have Ryze. Ryze lost a shit ton of win rate with raw nerf, and then with the new item changes happened, he lost even more win rate because none of these new items are actually benefiting Ryze. They didn't buff Seraph, they made it arguably, I mean, it's kind of same power lavish for Ryze, but the raw nerf really hurt him, and then other champions got like better Proto Belt, better Leech Bane, better this, better that, and Ryze got kind of nothing besides Rabadon being 100 gold cheaper. So this champion for sure needs a nerf. He lost like 2% win rate. Needs a buff, I meant. Sivir is a champion that is getting buffed. Can't really see a reason why, besides... I think the Sivir buff is probably just to shake up ADC meta more. Like, the champion is in a completely fine spot. Doesn't really need a buff. It's a bit of a weird one. Twisted Fate. So this one is also a bit weird. So his win rate wise, he's not doing too well. But I definitely think that he got massive buffs from the AP item changes and his spellbook changes. And TF is he's just a product of people building incorrectly and going wrong keystone. I'm pretty sure Unsealed Spellbook is by far the best TF keystone. I'm pretty sure maybe the best build now is just Proto Belt into Leech instead of people still buying Raw, of course. Like, people are still stuck on that useless trash item. So I think... there's a very good chance here that the buff is too much. He actually becomes OP without people realizing it, and then we're gonna see where it takes us. But we'll see on the buff. But it could also be ADTF buff, right? Like, it doesn't specifically say APTF. Maybe it's AD. Twitch. So right now, this is very interesting right now. So there's a Reddit thread on front page at this moment which says AP Twitch is making a comeback next patch. Is AP Twitch not considered degenerate gameplay? Yes, Riot is looking to make AP Twitch viable again next patch. You know, the Reddit Q support never goes to lane, only cheeses from level 1 onward. Makes ADC's lives miserable as well as everyone else's. Off meta builds are okay as long as they're not degenerate. That's what Riot once said. So here I'm wondering, is AP Twitch not considered degenerate? I feel like it fits the definition pretty much perfectly. What do you guys think? Am I crazy, or should AP Twitch never become a thing again? I think the way the person worded it is absolutely fine. Like, he's just asking a question and describing how he feels about it. And I actually kind of agree with him. I think that AP Twitch has complete degenerate gameplay. I don't think he has any good gameplay whatsoever, and I don't think this build should exist. I know Riot is always about, you know, we have to, you know, promote more off-meta builds or more like, you know, AP-AD builds on different type of champions. The reason why Freak likes AP Twitch, based on what Freak said in the past, is that AP Twitch plays with W and passive a lot more, and then those are spells that AD Twitch doesn't care about a lot. But AD Twitch doesn't really care about any spell besides ult and Q anyway. So it's kind of weird, but I just think like AP Twitch is just a bad idea to buff. I don't think this build should ever be good. I think people need to remember the metas where AP Twitch was a meta, like people playing support or jungle or AD, and then they just like roam, and then they're slow, and then the way they kill you, it's very non-interactive. I'm 100% with the Redditor. I think this is a mistake. So then we have Udyr with Phoenix. So, okay, sure, this is most likely because of the Lianji nerf last patch. Udyr got hit, obviously. Udyr is one of the best Lianji users, and 10 AP loss on Lianji actually does affect Udyr a lot. I just hope the buff is very small, because once again, Udyr is also a champion that I would prefer not to be good in a good state, because gameplay against him is horrific. Champion nerfs. So Cho'Gath, they're gonna make Emax slightly worse, but still better than before. It was pre-buff, so it's probably still gonna be best thing to do is max Eon Cho. I did call immediately when the buff came out that Cho is OP. Elise gained too much with Storm Surge being the best rush item on her. Now she's roaming around with an item that is insanely cheap power spike, has the perfect stat profile, and gives her 6% move speed on a already super fast mobile champion. Lucian nerf, no surprise there, been creeping up, performing as one of the best ADCs. But here's the thing, like, the weird part about Lucian to me, is that the champ hasn't even been good for very long. Now it's been like 1 or 2 patch at most where Lucian's been good. So I'm kind of getting confused why other ADCs are dodging nerfs here, but Lucian is the one that hits the chopping block first. Definitely weird to me. Smolder. Yeah, that's also because they overshot him last patch. Cool. Champ adjustments, Aatrox, based on what I've seen on PBE, seems like they're just straight up buffs for Aatrox. There's no nerf here, really. They are nerfing the passive, but I still think the champ will most likely be just better overall. Annie, this one we have no information about. I'm really curious to see what they do with it. You can't really put more power into Q and W of Annie. Maybe you can ship away the power and put it more into Ultimate, because Ultimate did become very relevant to Annie now. But I'm not sure where Riot wants to take Annie, because she was very ult reliant. Now she went into being more QW reliant, so I'm not really sure where this is going. KASSADIN, I do think the champ deserves a buff. Even if you pick him in spots where he should be Thanos, he just becomes useless. I genuinely hope it's AP ratio buff. This champion deserves to have a better late game. I really think Riot just needs to commit that KASSADIN is a late game champion, because right now it's not. For some reason it's a mid game champion. Why? Just make it a late game champion. His AP ratios have gotten gutted over the years. Bring them back. Samira. Yeah, she's very unpopular. We don't see her very often. I guess just adding more damage to her is the best way to buff her, because she should be killable fast. That's like kind of my take. And then Horizon Focus buff. How should Riot buff Horizon Focus? Well, my take is they need to make the item cheaper. I think this is the best way to buff Horizon. Make it cheaper by 200 gold. I would say it's by far the best way to buff the item. You make it that way, all of a sudden, boom, you're going to be buying Horizon a lot more champions again. I think 200 gold less on Horizon is the best way to buff it. I think the item has already enough AP where you don't really need to go higher. I also think the item gives you as much haste as it possibly can. I honestly think cost is literally the only way you can potentially buff the item realistically. So that's what I'm predicting. And that's the patch. Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow with the detailed changes.